Putang ina mo! Putang ina mo!
What's up YouTube, it's your boy Dashing Kevs with the last part of the power scale video, the top 4. So these are teams that have maybe one bad matchup and the rest are either even or favorable for them. Let's have a look. So at number 4 we have the Abomasnow Arsenals with Coach Wendell. Let's look at the team real quick here. So we have Mega Altaria, a unique type, bulkier than most dragons. Doesn't have that annoying 4x weak to Ice trait. Gets setup moves like DD and Cotton Guard so it can be a sweeper, or stall with Roost, Refresh Toxic. Can also be run physical or special, though physical would be the more common of the two. Next we have Gyarados, a solid tier 1 mon due to its potential to sweep when positioned correctly. DD plus Moxie is GG basically. We basically know what Gyarados does, so we'll go to the next one. So Sylveon, a fairy wall breaker. Having this on the team makes Altaria run physical because why would you have two special fairies? It's often run with Specs or Scarf or even CM, and it can also be played as a clerk since it has Heal Bell and Wish for team support. Next up we have Slurpuff, a bulky fairy that gets webs. Wish, Belly Drum makes it very hard to deal with. Getting access to Unburden makes it even harder to deal with if you're expecting a different set. So this can actually sweep teams easier than most setup sweepers because it is fairly bulky. Next up we have Sigilif, a flying type defogger that is immune to rocks thanks to its Magic Guard ability. A good check to the potential poison types that can't do much versus Steel. It has some tech like Trick and Tailwind. So next up we have Audino, another support mon with the Regenerator, will most likely reset the field after taking a KO, has access to Wish, Knock Off, Toxic, just moves to annoy the team and the support teammates. Nido Queen is up next, so it's a fairly good value mon. Nido Queen is relatively bulky, the only poison resist on the team. Decent typing, gets access to rocks and T-spikes. Great coverage moves too. Poison typing allows it also to absorb the T-spikes. Next up we have Malamar. Contrary superpower, can be hard to deal with if lacking prep, and it can also dominate inside Trick Room. I don't really know much about Malamar, so that's mostly the set that I'm familiar with. The spam superpower, get the boost and try to win. Now, next up we have Typhlosion, good speed tier, fire coverage, can be scarfed or specs with Eruption, Flamethrower, Focus Blast. It also gets extra sensory, surprisingly. I did not expect that. Can be run physical or special, though special is a lot better for obvious reasons. And the last one would be Manectric. Good speed tier, gets pivot and electric coverage. Now the pros for the team is very offensive, can sweep with just one boost. Team has a lot of support moves that can be played in a variety of ways. Despite having few options offensively, they are very potent in what they do. For the cons, the speed tier is decent to good but not great. But it can be compensated with sticky webs. Team is also weak to poison with only one poison resist on the team. Lack of type coverage due to multiple repeated types because you have a lot of fairy types here, and can be difficult to break without a boosting move. You will really need to do those boostings if you want to break one of those harder walls in the meta. It also lacks pivot and reliable recovery outside Wish passing. That's gonna be the Abomasnows. Let's go and check number 3. Alright, so at number 3 we have the Dallas Rapidash with Coach Reginald, one of the gods of the division. So let's have a look at the team. He has Megalopony, very good Mega Pick, amazing speed tier. Scrappy allows it to hit Ghost, gets moves like Fake Out for free chip. Decent type coverage, return, high jump kick can deal heavy damage if unresisted. Next we have Salamence, a good tier 1 pick as well. Good speed tier, can be physical special mixed or support. Access to Wish and Roost allows it to catch teams off guard, expecting the traditional sweeper set. Access to DD, Moxie, and Z-Move allows it to sweep, similar to Gyarados, but not as good. Next up, we have Amoonguss, a bulky regen mon, can spread Toxic or Sleep. Access to Clear Smog can, remove those stat boosted of the opponent. Access to Reliable Recovery in Synthesis. Poison types make it immune to poison as well as soak up T-Spikes. So that's most of where you'll be getting the utility from Amoonguss. Next up, we have Milotic, a bulky water type. Ice coverage basically covers the ice weakness of the Mens, Amoonguss, Rotom, and the Mudsteel from the team. Can burn with Scald or stall with Toxic. It gets reliable recovery, can be competitive or Marvel scale depending on the set. Aside from that, it doesn't have too much sets, but the ones it does are very effective. Next up, we have Mismagius, one of the mons I'm not too familiar with, but it does have a good speed tier, great move coverage like Shadow Ball, Power Gem, Mystical Fire. Access to Nasty Plot lets it sweep unresisted teams. If I'm not mistaken, Reginald also likes this mon a lot. I do see like in the recaps that Mismagius does get a lot of kills, so he may be using this as like the revenge killer when a mon is sacked. Because Ghost type is definitely one of the better types for revenge kill because not a lot resists it. Now, next up we have Mudsteel, a straightforward physically bulky mon. Gets Stab Earthquake, covers steel types, can run Rocky Helmet to chip contact attackers. It also gets Heavy Slam for Fairy, so that's something that's not too common with the ground types. Next up we have Aromatisse, so it provides Fairy coverage, access to support moves as well. The standard Wish, Heal Bell, and all that jazz. Access to reliable recovery due to the Wish Protect, and it's an all-around bulky mon. Next up we have Fortress, access to 3 hazards in Rock, Spikes, and T-Spikes. Can function as a rapid spinner, also gets a Volt Switch for pivoting. Fortress being physically defensive as well as access to Sturdy makes it guarantee it will get up a hazard, if not 2 or more, depending on how you play it. Next up we have Satu, the Magic Bouncer. It doesn't really do much aside from bouncing status moves. That's probably why Reg only brought it once. It also gets defog, so there's that. But yeah, other than that, he does have other mons to fulfill whatever Satu can do. Next up we have Rotom Fan. So it gets Stab Electric coverage, Pivot with Volt Switch. Unfortunately, it is weak to rocks, so it can't really keep pivoting freely. Access to Will-O-Wisp and Defog are always good. It's mostly gonna be run offensively, Scarf or Specs, as a Scarf Air Slash can be annoying to deal with due to the flinch chance. So that's the team. Let's look at the pros. So the pros, I would say, the team is well built. Typing covers each other mon's weaknesses. The team doesn't have a bad matchup, maybe just one at the most that I could think of. Otherwise, it's even or in its favor. The threats can come in multiple ways because the team has a good balance with wall breakers and defensive walls. Access to defog, spin support, and the team has pivot options. Now the cons of the team is relatively weak to rocks and may have to sack a mon like Fortress to remove those. Its multiple win cons can be predictable. Despite having pivot mons, they are in the lower tiers, making them unlikely to come to play at the same game. So that's gonna be the Dallas Rapidash, and let's look at number 2. Alright, so number 2. Now, number 1 and 2 is actually very close, so I was back and forth on this one. But for number 2, it's gonna be the Townsville Crocodiles with Coach Jaden. Let's have a look at the team. So we have Mega Medicham, good choice for a Mega. Slower than Megalop but hits a lot harder. So it has a good speed tier with good coverage moves. Unfortunately, Baton Pass is banned, so it doesn't have a way of gaining momentum. It's still threatening as a whole since it does have good coverage moves as well as the stab Zen headbutt and the high jump kick can just 2-hit KO mons that even resist it. Now, next up for the tier 1 we have Aegislash. Now this mon can destroy teams in the late game, especially when everything countering it is already gone. King Shield deters contact moves and attacks. It can also be run physical and special. It's also immune to poison, normal, and fighting. So very hard to deal with since those are all moves that you want as well. Next up we have Talonflame, amazing speed tier and amazing stab combination in fire and flying. Two good abilities in Flame Body and Gale Wings. Despite the Gen 7 nerf of the Gale Wings, Priority Z move can beat most DD mons. So if you have a mon that, let's say, sets up a DD, probably takes a hit before that for the DD setup. And before it starts sweeping, Talonflame can just come in and Z Brave Bird, Gale Wings. So it's going to be +1 priority Z move. Now, Flame Body is good because it counters contact moves. It's also good that it has a 4x resist on a U-turn. So if you predict a U-turn coming, you can just switch to Talonflame, hits Talonflame, doesn't do anything, and you have the chance to burn. So that's something to look out for. It also has access to Roost for recovery and then U-turn pivot. Unfortunately, it is 4x weak to rock, so it is dependent on hazard removal. Next up, we have Incineroar, bulky fire dart type. Access to stab knockoff is always a good thing, as well as being one of the bulkier intimidate mons. It also has access to fake out snarl for special attackers and U-turn for pivot. It even gets its own Z move. Next we have Vaporeon, bulky water type with access to Wish and Heal Bell, allows it to not worry about status and team support. Another mon that is held back by the ban of Baton Pass, because you can't really pass Wish safely since you'll have to do the manual switch. You can also use a Scald for potential burns, so that's basically what Vaporeon does. There's not many heat sets for it aside from those. Next we have Tangela, so a very bulky mon thanks to Eviolite. Access to reliable recovery in synthesis and also gets regenerator. So you know, how bulky can you get? God, it heals everything. It can stall with the Leech Seed, Toxic Protect, has access to Giga Drain for more recovery, and just spread Leech Seeds and Toxics everywhere. So another annoying mon to deal with. Next up we have Palo Sand, the designated rocker. Physically bulky with a wide move pool, Trick, Skill Swap, Recovery in Shore Up, Shadow Ball for stab. Those are some of the sets that I can see it bringing. Next up we have Noivern. Now Noivern gets Frisk, which is an underrated ability, but it is one of the best in draft format. Being able to scout the item of the mon can tell you a lot about what set it's running. Amazing speed tier as well, access to Hurricane, Air Slash and Draco Meteor. Also gets Defog and the Roost for recovery, U-turn for pivot. So Noivern actually does a lot of things well, or it has the option to do a lot. So it's all around a very good mon. Next up we have Torkoal, another potential rocker, can take advantage of a Trick Room to switch. Drought also boosts Talonflame's Flare Blitz. Next up we have Slowking, another bulky water. So he has a lot of bulky waters, or just two, but you know, you can see the bulk on this team, right? It's very hard to miss. For Slowking, it does get also regen and recover, similar to Tangela. So the two regen one get reliable recovery, which that's fair. Stab Psychic will bring another coverage move for the team. It also, like I said, has amazing synergy with Tangela, because you can just keep switching back and forth or making the mind game, will you switch or not. The pros of the team is very good individually and can benefit a lot from the synergy. Amazing coverage moves, having two regen cores, Wish passing to Aegislash potentially, Noivern Frisks to scout sets, Intimidate on Incineroar, Flame Body on Talonflame. You know what I mean. It's just too much. It's too much to worry about. I remember building for this team and I'm like, My god, what am I gonna do? It's just too much. You could bring anything. The cons for this team is it is weak to rocks, and the defoggers are flying types that don't really want to defog, if that makes sense, because they're gonna die. They're not gonna live coming into rocks and another attack. So you would need to sack once to get the hazards out. There is also a lack of reliable recovery in the mons that don't have the regen and would rely on a wish passing. So I think we all know what's going to be number 1. Let's just check it out. Okay, so at number 1, the best team in the Alola division is the Cleveland S Cavaliers with Coach Josh R. Congrats to Josh for building the best team in the league. That speaks about how well you're familiar with the mons in the format. Let's have a look at the team and see why is it at number 1. To start off, we have Mega Pinsir, a very good offensive mon. Access to Aerialate with ST for a boosting move. Lets it break through everything, not resisting it. It also gets EQ and CC, close combat, for coverage, and Aerialate boosted quick attack for priority. Definitely sweeps late game. It is weak to rock, so it could be hard if you're pivoting in and out. Next up, we have Mamoswine, a good tier 1 mon. It's a fast rocker, so it would outspeed standard rockers. Access to ice move that threatens other rocker leads as well. Gets stab EQ, priority in ice shard to check dragons. Access to knock off for utility as well. Next up, we have Serperior. I don't understand how this is in tier 2. It's actually a better pick than Mamo, so I would probably put Serp in tier 1 and Mamo in tier 2, if that makes sense. Contrary, Leaf Storm just blows away mons when boosted. Access to Synthesis for recovery, Hidden Power for the extra coverage. It can be run physically as well with a Coil SD set. Glare Leech Seed for support. It's basically another mon that's hard to prep for. It has access to defog as well. So aside from the threatening sweeper role, it does have other things it can do if the team needs it to do it. Next up, we have Aerodactyl, amazing speed tier, access to rocks, defog, and roost. But this will primarily be an attacker, like a revenge killer. Access to Stone Edge, EQ, and Pursuit for mons that want to switch out. It's very good in what it can do. Though it's not really that bulky, you don't really need it to be bulky. You just need it to be fast and hit hard. Could be Life Orb or Choice Band if I were to guess. Next up, we have a Slowbro, so another bulky water regen mon. Gets the same moveset as Slowking, which we already covered. And the good thing about this one, it covers the weakness of Mamoswine, the water weakness, as well as the fire weakness of Pinsir and Serperior. So it's one of the things that holds the team together, if you will. Next up, we have Shinotic, an underrated mon that has access to Spore, can be threatening with the Moonblast. Also access to Synthesis, can spread status with FX Spore. It has a 4 times weakness to poison, but since the other mons resist or are immune to poison, then it doesn't really matter. Next up, we have Rhyperior, a physically bulky rocker that can destroy standard defoggers. So if you predict the defog coming, you can switch to Rhyperior. It is bulky enough to survive super effective moves thanks to the solid rock ability and deal out some damage as well. Next up, we have Houndoom. Good speed tier mon and access to Nasty Plot makes it very threatening. Fire Dark coverage adds another threat when prepping for the team. The Flash Fire ability allows it to switch into mons that are weak to fire if you're predicting the move. Next up, we have Togedemaru, good speed tier, immune to Toxic and Paralysis. Gets access to Fake Out, Nuzzle, Zingzap. Those are all around like annoying moves to deal with. It also gets Endeavor, which has good synergy with the Sturdy ability, and also U-turn Alt Switch for pivot. So it does have some pivot options. The last one here is Barbaracle. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. It's another potential rocker that can scare off ground rockers due to its water typing. Access to Shell Smash, can sweep teams with access to water and rock stabs, but it would fall to any grass move due to the defense reduction as well as 4 times weakness. So that's something to look out for. Very threatening as well. Now the pros of the team, it's probably the most threatening offensively as far as teams goes. I don't see any team that has more offense than this. A lot of the mons have potential to sweep. Even mons like Serperior doesn't even need a boosting move to sweep. You can just, throw out Leaf Storms and it's GG. The team also has access to reliable recovery. The mons cover each other's weaknesses well, and the team is very hard to break down and can sweep at any moment. So it just takes one turn where a mon is not in a good position. Pinsir comes in, sets up an SD, you make a switch, and boom, GG. It's too much offensively. When it comes to cons, the thing I would probably say would be it lacks pivot as a whole, and it can be worn down by hazards as well as status. That's it. That's going to be the video for the top 12, or not really, I guess it would be like ranking the 12 teams of the Alola division. I hope you guys enjoyed this and it was educational for you guys. That will be all for me. Check out my week 8 battle. I'll be uploading that probably a few days from now. So if you like the content, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'm out.